Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, we're going to talk about a star that's going to disappear tonight. And I've received many emails and many comments about this. Now, I've already covered this or mentioned it in a previous video. It's actually my first episode of my Signs in the Heavens playlist, where we talk about the star Betelgeuse and all the strange things that have happened with Betelgeuse. I'm going to do a quick recap of that here, but I would encourage you to watch the full video. I'll put the link for it in the description below. But yeah, something very rare is going to happen tonight, but let's catch you up to speed. So Betelgeuse is this star in the Orion constellation. I'm sure most people are familiar with the Orion constellation and Orion's belt. Okay, here's a depiction of Orion with a club in his hand and I guess a lion, or a lion, well, it has the tail there, so a lion in the other hand. We're talking about his right shoulder, which is already pretty interesting because if you view Orion as Christ rather than Orion or some other figure, then, you know, the right shoulder, that's significant. Okay, so what's happened with this star? Well, the first thing is that before the time of Christ, Betelgeuse was described as a yellow star in literature and poetry and written works. But after the time of Christ, they started to describe it as a red star. So it's pretty obvious that this probably did correspond with the life of Christ, but more particularly his atonement, you know, the shedding of his blood. It goes from yellow to red. And that's how it stands today. It's a red star. So that's very interesting. And then recently, just a few years ago, in 2019, in November, there's an event that took place called the Great Dimming, in which Betelgeuse dimmed. It was obscured. And it lost its brightness for a time. And interestingly, it happened at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it went until March of the next year. So it just went for a few months, but it went until March. In March is when the missionaries were called home because of the pandemic and temples were closed worldwide. So you have two events that go along with this star that seem to go along with the church and the gospel. The next one was in April of this year. So after going through this great dimming in April of this year, which by the way was the month that Israel celebrated its 75th birthday on the Hebrew calendar, not on our calendar. On our calendar, it's I think it's May 14th. But on the Hebrew calendar, Israel turned 75 in that same month. There was also a rare daytime meteor that exploded over Israel, which that was my second video that I did in my playlist. So watch that. We already talked about this recently. But so in that same month, Betelgeuse started to shine 150% its usual brightness, which moved it from the 10th brightest star in the sky to the 7th brightest star. And its bright to dim cycle began to go twice as fast as usual, because it goes through like this cycle of bright to dim. It's interesting to note that both the numbers 7 and 10 are viewed as numbers of perfection and completion. 10 in the mathematical sense, and then 7 in the sense of creation. So there's a lot of weird things about this star, and I think that it's a significant star, especially after preparing for this video and what we're going to talk about right now. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's go to this article. This is Scientific American. Betelgeuse will briefly disappear in once in a lifetime coincidence, quote unquote. For 6 seconds tonight, the constellation Orion will appear to lose the vibrant red star at its shoulder. Okay. Some sky watchers this month will witness Betelgeuse, one of the brightest and best known stars in the sky, nearly disappear. Mere seconds later, despite astronomers' hopes that the star will meet its explosive end someday soon, it will return, shining just as brightly as ever. Betelgeuse's brief blip of obscurity will mark a cosmic coincidence. There's that word again, quote unquote. Coincidence to you, maybe not to others. An asteroid will block the star from view over a thin strip of Earth's surface. Scientists are hailing this celestial alignment as a once-in-a-lifetime occasion that, they hope, will permit them to glimpse Betelgeuse's ever-changing surface of hot and cold patches in the best resolution to date. Okay, now, where are you going to be able to see this? This is actually kind of the same as an eclipse, or like a solar eclipse, where there's a path of totality. You have to be within this path in order to see Betelgeuse disappear. The path goes from Mexico and then through Europe, the Middle East, and then into China. And it's just going to be for a few seconds. So I'm not going to be able to see this, but if there's somebody watching this channel that's from this area, southern Spain, Italy, Greece, Mexico, let me know. Let me know if you're in the path of totality. So, but what I wanted to do, as I was looking at this, people noticed with solar eclipses that, at least recently, that there's interesting locations that these paths of totality go through. And we've talked about this so much on the channel, especially with the 2017 eclipse, the eclipse that happened in October of this year, 2023, and then the upcoming eclipse in 2024 on April 8th. How those eclipses, all three of them, go over sites that are significant to the church. Between all three of them, they go over Independence, Missouri, Adamonte-Yaman, Far West. The one in October went through Utah. It missed all the temples except for Monticello. And then in 2024, that's going to go over the Sacred Grove and the Kirtland Temple. Okay. Those eclipses are definitely signs for us. What about this one? Are there any church related sites along this path of totality? Not that I can tell, but if you're familiar with the scriptures, especially the Old Testament, you might notice something. What I noticed when looking over here in the east is that the path of totality goes through essentially the territory of these different empires that would persecute the Jews and also Christians for a time, when including the Roman Empire, but then actually ironically spreading Christianity once it became the official state religion. But I noticed that the path seems to go through these empires, and I wanted to make sure. So remember, Daniel had a vision of 4 beasts, and that corresponds with Nebuchadnezzar's dream about the statue, where you have these different representations essentially of the Babylonian Empire, the Persian Median Empire, the Macedonian or Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, and then the remnants that we have today, the modern nation states that used to be part of the Roman Empire or essentially descended from the Roman Empire. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to see on a map the boundaries of these empires. So what I did, I went to the study helps at the end of, like, when you have your quad, you have the Bible maps. So I went to that on the church website. For some reason, they didn't have one for the Persian Empire, so I had to rely on Wikipedia for that. But here you have the different empires, okay? And I pulled up Photoshop. I use Photoshop quite a bit before I started doing YouTube. I was doing graphic design, and that was my main thing. And so I'm very familiar with Photoshop. And so what I did is I took the map with the path of totality, and I went empire by empire and did this. First, I overlapped the picture onto this map, and then I drew an outline so it could more easily be seen. Okay, so first we have the Babylonian Empire, which, as you can see, it is not within the path of totality. So off the bat, it's like, okay, maybe this isn't really a thing. But then let me add the other ones. So we have the Persian Empire, which the path does go through the boundaries, or the border of the ancient Persian Empire. Okay, goes through the northern part of it. And then we have the Greeks, or the Macedonian Empire. And just like the Persians, it goes through the north of it. And interestingly, the path goes over Greece. Let me go back to this one over here and zoom in. Okay. The path goes directly over Greece, through, I guess you could say, the heartland of Greece. You also notice that it goes it does go directly over Italy. And let's go back here. So here's the Macedonian Empire, and then here is the Roman Empire. And what you'll notice with the Roman Empire is that the path goes like cleanly, like right through the middle of it. And that kind of stunned me a little bit. So, you know, with the 2017 eclipse and the 2024 eclipse, a lot of people have noticed, before they started like taking into account the Utah eclipse this year, where they started saying, oh, you put all the lines together, it makes the letter Aleph in the Hebrew alphabet, which is the first letter. It's like A, the letter A. Although it's not in the modern Hebrew block script, it's in the ancient like Paleo Hebrew, so it's that Aleph, not the modern Aleph. But anyway, before people started making that connection, it seemed that people were more focused on the fact that it made a big X over the United States, and how that's probably not a good sign, especially knowing that there's going to be the downfall of nations, there's the judgments of God, who knows what's going to happen as far as that goes. But ultimately, all nations are going to fall at the time of the second coming. So here you have something very similar, where this star, this very significant star that seems to be attached to, or like it's significant in the sense of like Christ and the church. This star is going to cross over the lands of these former empires and obscure for some of those locations that part of the sky and that star. And when you think about it, let's go back to this depiction of Orion. Again, it's the right shoulder. And you can see here, it's this arm connected to this shoulder that's holding the club as it's, killing this lion. As it's killing this lion. And in Daniel's vision, the first beast was a lion. It was the Babylonian Empire. So are we seeing some kind of thing representing Christ taking over the nations of the earth? You know, these different empires that have represented world powers, and we have all the descendants of those empires today. And now Christ is ready to come and take the kingdom. I think that might be what's going on. Let's read a little bit more. Let's go back to the article. Okay. The opportunity comes courtesy of a sizable asteroid called Leona. Now, maybe that sticks out to you. It did for me. Let's go to Wikipedia for the name Leona. Leona is a female given name derived from the Latin, or the language of the Roman Empire, word Leo for lion. Okay, so you have this constellation in the sky that could represent Christ. The right shoulder has been doing a lot of interesting things. It's about to be hidden tonight, and you have this depiction of a man holding a club, killing a beast, and this symbol of a lion, which, you could look at that as Christ himself, because Christ is known as the Lion of Judah, right? Lions are associated with Christ. It's a symbol of Christ. And so this lion asteroid is going to go over the historical boundaries of these different empires tonight. So, are we soon going to see the end of nations and the descendants, the modern day descendants of these empires? I think so. I really do. It's fascinating. So you have this asteroid named Leona. I wanted to find out more about it. It was discovered on the 8th of October, 1891, by French astronomer Auguste Charlois at Nice. Oh my gosh, I don't know French. At Nice Observatory in southeastern France. I thought that this was interesting, this date right here, because it was discovered. If we go back to October 1891, what did it say? The 8th of October, which was right here. So it turned out that in that year, the 8th of October was during the 10 days of awe. The 10 days of awe go from Rosh Hashanah, which is also known as the Feast of Trumpets. It's also their New Year's Day when they change the date on the calendar. Okay. So you have the two high holy days. You have Rosh Hashanah, and then between them, the 10 days of awe, and it all culminates with Yom Kippur on the 10th day. And that's the holiest day on the Hebrew calendar. So it was discovered during a significant time on the Hebrew calendar. And then let's go ahead and continue. Leona orbits the sun in the outer main belt at a distance of 2.7 to 4.1 astronomical units once every 6 years in 3 months. 6 is an important number. A lot of times it's associated with man, but you also think about these 6,000 year periods before the millennium being the 7th. And so, we're coming to the end of this 6,000 year nightmare that we've been going through. Okay, later on, the origin of this minor planet's name is unknown. Among the many thousands of named minor planets, now that's interesting. We'll look at that in just a minute. Leona is one of 120 asteroids for which no official naming citation has been published. All of these low-numbered asteroids have numbers between 164 Eva and 1514. Oh gosh, Rikushua, and were discovered between 1876 and the 1930s. Okay, so it's a minor planet. I wanted to look at the definition of what a minor planet is. According to the International Astronomical Union, or IAU, a minor planet is an astronomical object in direct orbit around the sun that is exclusively classified as neither a planet nor a comet. I have that highlighted, and I've gone over this about 1 billion times on the channel, but let's do it again because of this statement from Joseph Smith about the sign of the Son of Man. I'm not going to read the whole quote, but it says, then will appear one grand sign of the Son of Man in heaven. But what will the world do? They will say it is a planet, a comet, etc. So in other words, they won't really know what to make of it. They won't know if it's a planet or a comet. Well, is it this? Is it a minor planet? I don't know. But the Son of Man will come as the sign of the coming of the Son of Man, which will be as the light of the morning cometh out of the east. So, we don't know exactly what it's like, how it's going to happen at first. We've read the other quotes from Joseph Smith where he says that the sign of the Son of Man at first is going to be small, and then it's going to get brighter and brighter until it's all ablaze in the sky, similar to the sun, bright as or brighter than the sun. And, for all we know, any given comet or asteroid or something like that, as we see it approaching the Earth or coming close to the Earth or it's within view, could suddenly turn into the sign of the Son of Man, because even though it matches the description of our astronomy as being a comet, an asteroid, or whatever. I don't think that we truly understand space, and we can't see everything with our natural eyes or with our temporal instruments and things like that. So just anything could happen. It really could. I'm not saying that this is going to be the sign of the Son of Man, but what if suddenly it brightened up and then it started coming toward Earth, and then it turns out to be, the sign of the Son of Man? Who knows? But either way, I just thought that I would point that out. We're not going to read the rest of this. Let's go back to the article. On its own, Leona is just another space rock cluttering up the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Well, leave it to science to always dismiss things, and I don't expect that they would talk about what we're talking about, but it's just it's this like whole scientific mentality where nothing means anything. It's just another this, it's just another that. You're not special. You're just the product of the Big Bang or evolution or whatever. It's just it's a really sad thing. But anyway, but at 8:17 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States, of course, on December 11th, Leona will slip directly between Earth and Betelgeuse, a red supergiant star that, unlike the asteroid, has been recognized by countless generations of humans around the world. Betelgeuse marks one bright shoulder of the constellation Orion and is located just 650 light years from Earth. Although its brightness regularly rises and falls, and I think that that's referring to the bright to dim cycle that we talked about earlier, how now that's like going twice as fast since April of this year. Although its brightness regularly rises and falls, the star grabbed the spotlight in 2019 when astronomers realized it was fading rapidly in what became known as the Great Dimming, and we talked about that. That coincided with the COVID pandemic and missionary work coming to a standstill, or almost a complete standstill, in the closing of temples. Quote, "It has not yet recovered from the Great Dimming," end quote, says Andrea Dupree, an astrophysicist at the Center of Astrophysics, Harvard and Smithsonian. Now, I want to say something about that, because we know that it brightened in April, and it seems like that's still the case. And so that may seem to contradict what she's saying here, but I'm assuming that what she's referring to is that even though it's like brighter, maybe you can still see the same. I think that they were saying it was like a dust cloud that had gotten in between Betelgeuse and Earth, and that's what caused the Great Dimming. So maybe they're still able to detect the remnants of that, but despite there being some kind of obstruction, it is shining brighter than what it did before. Does that make sense? You see how those two things could be happening at the same time? All right. So this is news to me, though. I did not know this, that it has not yet recovered from the Great Dimming. And that's maybe something to think about, because if the Great Dimming goes along with the slowdown of missionary work and temple work, well, things are now pretty much back to normal. But if you've been watching my channel, we're still trying to get the missionary numbers back up to what they were before COVID. And I might as well just pull up the spreadsheet where I've tracked this. So let's see, missionary work. Here we go. Okay, so look at this column right here, column E. So at its height, the most missionaries that we've ever had in the church was in 2014 with 85,000. Here, I guess I'll zoom in. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Okay, so 2014, 85,000. And then it started to go down, not because of the pandemic, but definitely because of the pandemic. It was at its lowest in a very long time in 2020 and 2021. But then it started to come back up. In April 2019, President Nelson made a special request for people to serve missions. And we've covered recent articles where they credit his request for the recent surge in missionaries, the number of missionaries. And so now, as of right now, the last that I checked, we do have more than 72,000 missionaries. And I would assume it's probably going to continue to go up. So anyway, it's interesting. The great dimming. And then you look at this and how, yeah, we still haven't fully recovered. The last time that we've had this many missionaries was back in 2015, where we had 74,000. Okay. So that's it. I feel like it goes together. I do. Continuing to understand how special the event is, consider the total solar eclipse that will occur in April 2024. During the climax of the eclipse, viewers across a narrow strip of Earth's surface will see the moon pass directly in front of the sun. Because the two bodies appear as the same size in our sky, the moon will entirely block the visible disk of the sun and expose the faint, wispy halo called the corona, a layer of our home star's atmosphere that scientists otherwise cannot see from Earth. Similarly, now this is okay. Similarly, the roughly 40-mile wide Leona appears in the sky as about the same size as the enormous but very distant Betelgeuse. So now, of course, like if this wasn't the case, we wouldn't even be talking about this, but it's so interesting that things are working out like this. And you have these events in the sky where you have one object from our point of view, the way it appears to us, that looks the same size as the other object and then goes in front of it, thereby creating a sign. We've had these eclipses. Now we have this very interesting one that's making news. This will allow the asteroid to block all or most of the star's light when the two bodies perfectly align. But whereas Earth experiences a total solar eclipse every 18 months or so, occultations of bright stars such as Betelgeuse are extremely rare, occurring less than once a century. Montargis estimates. So that's all that I had from this article, and I think that pretty much covers everything. Yeah, it does. So, I mean, put your thoughts in the comments below. Do you agree with me that it could be significant that the path of totality is like it appears, just roughly looking at it, that it's like perfectly going through the Roman Empire? Let's throw up all the empires on here really quick. Macedonian, Persian, Babylonian. So with the exception of the Babylonian, it goes through all of them. And then in modern day, it goes through some of the major remnants of these empires. Here, got to go back to this. So again, another thing, it's just kind of interesting. It goes through Turkey. Turkey had the Ottoman Empire, which was a big thing for a while until World War I. But goes through Turkey, goes through Greece, goes through Italy, goes through Spain. And Spain is one of the biggest descendants of the Roman Empire. And they themselves had a pretty vast empire that's, still recognizable today because of South America, Central South America, the Caribbean, where they brought their language, And, well, I shouldn't just say Spain, Portugal as well. My mom's from Portugal. I can't forget Portugal. Yeah, that's interesting. It goes through both Spain and Portugal within recent times. And I'm saying that relatively speaking, you've had these two large empires that have had their impact on the Western Hemisphere. And then, interestingly, it does go through the United States, but just the very tip of Florida. So it even touches the United States. So, I tend to think, I really do, that the time is close. the time of the second coming is close, and that you're having these signs that seem to represent the end of nations, the end of the old world order that's lasted for 6,000 years, and the approach of a true, righteous new world order under Christ. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.